Welcome back to Restauranttopia. We got Brian Zeit talking about all things ice cream. He's the author of a really cool book I read over the weekend, Ice Cold Profits, everything you need to know about an ice cream stand. As local independent operators, I think this is really relevant because there's such a huge category in desserts and upsells with ice cream. So I wanted to have Brian on. He's a Clevelander, good guy, and an expert in this industry.
Imagine a perfect world where you can build a restaurant, open the doors, and make loads of money. Unfortunately, those days are over. It takes great leadership, hard work, and long hours to operate a successful restaurant. Together, we can make it happen. This is Restauranttopia.
Brian, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Long time, first time, I feel like. Here. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, awesome. What made you want to write a book?
So how this all started was there's this incredible network of distributors for the Taylor brand of ice cream machines. Mm-hmm. And our owner, John, said, hey, reach out to the network. Somebody out there has a book about how to run an ice cream stand. It'd be great marketing material, and we could teach people, and you can use it for training. And so I reached out, and I asked everybody, and nobody said they had one. So I told John, hey, nobody's got this. And John said, well, then why don't you write it? Yeah. And so I did. And I mean, I'm taking a little bit of poetic license with it being a book. I think it's like about 60 pages, so it's like a long pamphlet. It's out there now, and it really is a great guide for anyone that is wanting to get into the industry. And what we've noticed a lot, too, is a lot of people want to get into this industry that have no experience. So this is a good starting point.
It's a solid book for anyone, whether it's restaurant industry or in the ice cream stand business, because you did such a good job of breaking it down into kind of just the basics. And, this business is complex, but it doesn't have to be. And, you focusing on equipment, food costs, near and dear to my heart, getting a good lawyer.
Sure.
Buying a business, doing evaluation, all those things I think were really important. So what do you see as far as, the industry right now? Do you see it growing, shrinking?
So I think people are more and more interested in getting into the ice cream business because they've found out how profitable it can be if it's run well. It's also a little bit different than the restaurant industry in regards to you don't have to have that many people running an ice cream stand. If you think about you don't have to have a front end. You don't have to have a front end manager. There's no bar cost if you wanted to do that. Yeah. All the kitchen goods and all that things. It's relatively simple industry if you still want to be in the food industry. Mm-hmm. So it is kind of growing, but what we're mainly seeing is it's now the next generation is stepping in. Yeah. People who have run ice cream stands for 30 or 40 years, their kids are taking over. They're selling it to someone who's a little bit younger that are looking to get into the industry and into the business and get something that can keep them profitable and run their own business, which is an interesting take because they all have their own versions of how this should be done too.
Yeah. And I think one thing that you touch in the book as far as just the industry is evolving with technology, whether it's digital screens that you talked about or, social media. But what do you see as some of the three pitfalls, so to speak, of opening up an ice cream stand in 2023?
So pitfall number one is doing it for the love of the game, but not for the love of money, right? So I love ice cream. I love seeing kids happy and all those things. And now all of a sudden you're handing out cones and you don't understand shrink well enough. You don't understand how food cost operations works, that you just kind of are in it because you really love making people happy and you heard that this is a good way to make money, right? It is a good way and you can love people to be happy. But you really have to understand business itself. And that's why I wrote this book, is there are so many people that I've ran into that were bus drivers for 40 years, that they love kids and they want to open an ice cream stand, but they have no idea how it works. So it's kind of built for them. So that's step number one. Step number two is buying something that they don't really understand just because it hits their price point. So and I'm not saying that you have to buy my equipment at all, but you have to research the equipment that you're going to get. So you have a budget and that's important, but understanding what you need, because if you buy something, say that's even too big, it won't work for you the way that it's supposed to. And the last thing I think is that, and you guys talk about it all the time, about how the restaurant industry is changing. you have to get out amongst the people and you have to be a part of the community. And people think that just by opening their doors and putting up a Facebook page, all of a sudden people are going to fly into their restaurants or into their ice cream stands. And that's just not how it works, right? So you have to...
tougher than that.
Yeah, it's a lot. And finding that way of and willing to put in the effort that it takes in order to bring that audience is probably one of the most valuable things in 2023 versus maybe 1990 or whatever it was.
What do you see as far as trends in the ice cream stand business and tangentially into the restaurant industry?
Yeah, so what we're seeing mainly, especially with millennials, right? So you're talking about the boomer generation is still going out and eating ice cream and things like that, but they are a lot more basic. They want a simple cone or something like that. But if you want to attract the young parents, which is what kind of my industry really wants, is, I want a millennial parent with a couple of kids, you really have to go after nostalgia, right? So something from like the 80s and 90s and early 2000s that they remember getting as a kid. So we're seeing things like Dunkaroo flavored ice cream and putting Dunkaroos in things. We're seeing things that have a lot with Sour Patch Kids or Swedish Fish that you used to get at the movie theaters. If you can play into that nostalgia, you'll have a reason why a parent would go to you instead of a Dairy Queen, right? So like that's kind of what you're trying to pull away from. And so that's a big part of it. And then if you get kids to grow up in that, then that becomes their ice cream stand.
So as far as a form factor, what are you seeing as far as trends? Is it the cone? Is it the shake?
Shakes, by far. So freak shakes are still very much a thing, which is these gigantic... Like, do you remember when like Bloody Marys used to just be like a glass of tomato juice and some vodka, and now it's got like shrimp and like olives?
There's a cheeseburger. Putting the cheeseburger on your Bloody Mary does not make it a Bloody Mary.
Same thing happening with shakes now. We're gonna put all this up. We're gonna put I'm going to put a cookie on it, and then I'm going to build a house on top of that cookie, and then I'm going to have all these. And so, like, shakes is a huge market right now, and it continues to be something that, like, because it's so adaptable and it's so easy to change, and there are so many things that you can do with it. So, obviously, that market is still huge.
And it's also great for Instagram and social media.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it looks good. I mean, versus, a dipped cone is like, hey, this is a little bit of a game changer.
Absolutely. So, that's a big part of it. And then, in regards to like the frozen drink, we're seeing frozen drinks still being massive, especially if your listeners, independent operators have a bar license. You can take a very inexpensive bottle of wine, and something as easy as Kool-Aid mix or simple syrup, put it into a machine and make a wine slushy and get $8 or $9 off of a $4 bottle of wine. So it's a really great way to add on to summer sales and things like that, because a frozen mixed drink and frozen alcoholic drinks are a huge trend that continues to grow every year.
We're coming back from Cincinnati, and I was at just a gas station, and they had the frozen drink machine. So is that something that you see that is going to push even more into the restaurant industry?
Yeah, so it's really very regional. So in Pittsburgh right now, you can get an alcoholic slushy from a Get-Go C-store. Right? So it's that popular that people are going to get a gas and then filling up with, a margarita. It's like daiquiri type of thing. Right? But that is continuing.
I mean, that's still an open container.
Right.
I mean, so are you supposed to crush it there next to the pump?
I'm not here talking about the legal part of this because I don't really know it. I think that as long as you have like a straw and it's not seamed, but anyways, I don't know that part of it. But I do think that like mixing and matching flavors and things like that. So Gen Z wants it their way and however they want to have it, right? So having a frozen drink that they can mix the flavors of, we're starting to see that more and pulling people in. Swenson's does a great job of it, for example. They have a lot of different flavors with their ice creams and they let you mix and match things. So I think that you'll start to see non-alcoholic and alcoholic frozen drinks. People use them to be very seasonal. Frozen ciders in the summer, in the fall, and frozen apple cider and stuff like that.
So Swenson's is, for our listeners that are outside of Ohio, it's kind of a regional chain. What they're expanding, I believe. But what's their setup as far as equipment? Like, do they have the slushy machine, then a soft serve machine?
So they do a chewable ice, which so they don't have a true slushy, which is a really cool concept. Their ice is very, very small, and it feels like a slushy without being one. And they have their signature drinks, which is the Ohio, the Florida, and one other one, California, I think. And that's a kind of a slush-based drink. And then they do, where they mix and matches with shakes, right? So you can get a strawberry banana shake. You can get a chocolate and something else shake, and that's, that makes it so that they're drawing in that crowd and scratching that itch that Gen Z has about, I want it, the way I want it.
Yeah.
Which before, like I remember growing up when I went to a restaurant, it was whatever they had.
Yeah.
Now it's, now you can build it your own.
Brian, we're going to wrap up here soon, but is there anything else to a local independent operator that you would recommend that they do at their restaurant on the dessert side? Yeah,
I would say don't be afraid of ice cream. Don't be afraid of making something yourself. Even small batch hard pack ice cream. There's a lot of rumor out there and a lot of challenge in regards to my industry of like, that's too complicated. It's too hard.
Yeah.
People think that you need an ice machine next to a slushy machine and you don't. Do some research on it and don't be scared. Jump into it, because one of the things that I can tell you about ice cream and slush in this industry that I didn't know until I got into it is how massively profitable it is. It is the most profitable thing on your menu that isn't called iced tea or soft drinks, right? It's the most profitable thing. So don't be scared. Reach out. We'll be happy to help walk you through it, and I think you'll get a lot of profit off of it.
Cool. Where can they find your company at?
So I'm Kappa's Company. Our website is kappascompany.com. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me, Brian Zeit, on LinkedIn, and we'd love to help you out.
All right. There'll be a link to Brian's information in the show notes on restauranttopia.com, and also to his book, Ice Cold Profits, Everything You Need to Know About Ice Cream Stands. Thank you so much. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
This is a high-quality pod. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Adios. Thank you for listening to Restauranttopia. The gratitude that we have for each and every one of you spending your precious time to listen to this podcast is immeasurable. Please make sure to tell a friend about this podcast. And also, if you have any feedback for us, visit us on restauranttopia.com and drop us a line. You can also subscribe on your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Thank you and have a great day.